Hello. I'm eating, so give me a second. Hey, Walter. Kind of testing out live streaming on YouTube, and I got this 1,000 piece puzzle of Cloud that I had to move up to a desk so I I could actually see what I was doing. It's impossible to see. There's no light on the floor. hmm So I'm putting Humpty Dumpty together. Can y'all hear me? Or no? Hold on. Hello, hello. Okay. I highly doubt I'll actually finish this puzzle right now. I'm just I'm gonna give it a good old college try to get some of it done. I intend to frame it and put it up on the wall. But thanks for stopping by and saying hi. I'm just gonna be rambling for however long I feel like it, so feel no obligation to stay the whole time. I don't even know how long I'll be doing this. I can show y'all the actual picture. Hold on. Most of the pieces are black, so this is going to be a nightmare. I'm going to give it a few minutes, see if anybody shows up, but otherwise I'll just start rambling. Okay. I had to share on Twitter, so some folks might show up. Anyway, doesn't really matter to me. It'll be on YouTube later if not. Gosh, I didn't even realize it's not even 10 o'clock yet. I don't know who else would even be up this early. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of go through. This is a mild rant, just because all of the chatter I see on Twitter, which I realize Twitter is generally a cesspool of, you know, despair and debauchery, but there's some legitimate discussion. And by legitimate, I mean good faith actors on both sides of Cloud, both sides of the shipping wars. And I'm just going to kind of give my stream of consciousness on this matter. All right, there's Cloud's shoulder. Let's see. And by the way, folks, I know I am, if you didn't see my thing on Twitter, I will be finishing up the remake part of Cloudy this month. It'll be this month for sure. That's all I can say. Videos could drop any day, but it'll be 2 parts. Anyway, I think Cloud is kind of misunderstood, and and to some degree, it makes sense. I mean, especially if you've never played the game before, whether it's the OG or remake or whatever, wherever you're starting. The beginning especially can be very confusing. But now there are people who are just gonna believe what they want to believe. Whatevs, can't help those people. But I think part of the reason his preference as far as who he likes, for instance, gets muddled is because people are fundamentally misunderstanding his character to begin with. So let's just go chapter by chapter. And I'm remembering the chapters as I'm saying this. Let's see. So, chapter 1, we're just introduced to Cloud. He's jumping off of a train and kicking ass, iconic scene. And he's definitely been a bit of an arse the entire time now. But I like to think about what's happened before this. We don't necessarily know, if you don't know OG, we don't necessarily know how he and Tifa reunited. We just know that they did. And she somehow got him on this job to go blow up a reactor. There's some things we have to take from just that. Okay. She didn't ask him to, oh, hey, can you go pick up some groceries for me? Or, my dog is lost. Can you go find my dog? She roped him into a terrorist attack on the government. Oh, no, which, Shinra's a company, but as far as Midgar is concerned, they are the government of Midgar. Now, they have a mayor and all that, but we all know the shadowy company behind it. I mean, yeah, they're calling all the shots because they have all the money. They have the power infrastructure, all that. So, but yeah, he's literally risking death. Death by gunfire, death by hanging, whatever they do with traitors in Midgar. Okay, for 2,000 gil. Now, right there, that ought to tell you more is happening than just I need money. As we see throughout the game, he finds many ways to make cash, from fighting bad dudes to finding cats. He is not hard up for cash to where he needs to be committing terroristic acts against the government. So that ought to tell you Tifa means something more to him than just some passing friend that he had in high school or whatever it was. And he's been a jerk in chapter 1, but I think most of it has to do with Barrett. You see the way he and Barrett do not get along at all, and this is clearly not their first interaction. My guess is Tifa, especially after she ran into Cloud, she may have, I don't know if she mentioned Cloud before that, but definitely after she ran into Cloud, probably went around raving to Barrett, to her landlord and all that. And she got him into that job. And then Barrett, who's been raising this girl for 5 years, of course he's not gonna like whoever this kid is that she's, going on and on about. She's like, who is this dude? You ain't seen him in 7 years and you want me to put him on a job? I'm sure Barrett probably made him prove himself to some degree and just throw him on a job for no reason. But so he already been giving Cloud a hard time. Then Cloud is pretty antisocial, but again, I think people are mistaking his antisocial behavior for being a, like, they take that and they extrapolate it to too many things. Also, and that's what I'm going to get into. It's how much of what we're seeing is Cloud versus Neo Cloud, if you want to call it that, whatever. This mix of Cloud who's got the Mako poisoning and all that. So yeah, anyway, so he's mostly being a jerk because he's probably been having a hard time with Barrett the whole time. He's already got all this other stuff happening in his mind with seeing Sephiroth everywhere. As we know, if you know OG, he kind of just came to. That's a lot to deal with, but mostly it's Barrett. So I think people take chapter 1 and then and it's meant to do that. They want you to contrast Cloud from chapter 1 when you first meet him versus how he is in the rest of the game. But the problem is if you take it too far and you think every interaction where he's not being a jerk then somehow has deeper meaning. So you go to chapter 2 and he meets Aerith. Now, when you see the way he's been acting to Biggs and all of them, it's easy to think that something else might be going on. So his interaction with Aerith is he's, hey, how you doing? Oh, no, that's her. After she's acting like a crazy person. And then he starts acting like a crazy person. She's super friendly and nice or whatever, and he is trying to get away from her through most of the interaction. He's like, okay, great, this girl's trying to sell me a flower, I'm just trying to get up out of here. And he ends up kind of indulging her a little bit, but we also have to remember she tells him, well, if you decide to just take the flower outright, he's like, how much? I mean, either way, he's like, okay, whatever, how much? Or if he says he's not interested, she'll say, oh, make your girlfriend's day. Well, then he perks up to that. Now, I don't know why anybody would take that as to mean something about Aerith because he don't even know her name. She certainly ain't his girlfriend or would be girlfriend. Then, I swear I'm gonna start doing this puzzle at some point. And then, so he decides to buy the flower, and she's being super friendly, but he's not actually responding all that much to her. So I'm not getting the romantic part. It's mostly, as with most of their interactions, is mostly her talking to him. And then, yeah, she grabs him, but she grabs him, not the other way around. And he only doesn't pay attention to it because he immediately starts seeing those whispers. And then, it's like, what the hell is this? So right from the first 2 chapters, what you should be getting out of that is 1, Tifa clearly means more to him than just some friend who he used to have. And 2, what you should get is nothing about him and Aerith to me at that point. Now, and then chapter 3, see, they go through so many different scenarios with Cloud that it's easy to get lost. And because then you immediately go to chapter, so he's total asshole in chapter 1. He's less of one in chapter 2, but not much, not by much. And then you get to chapter 3 where um it is clear that I mean they make a very stark contrast with the way he act towards Tifa versus everybody else. But a lot of the interactions are people who are either hostile to him or he's hostile to because he's jealous about Tifa. When it's somebody who wants something done, he doesn't, he just acts like any other normal merc. It's okay, what you need. All right, I got it. You know? Um, these puzzle pieces are so hard to see. Okay. Let's see what else I can find here. Maybe I can get some of this side done. And yeah, so then people go from, okay, well, if he's nice to somebody, that must mean he likes them because he's super nice to Tifa. But if you look at his general interactions with people, they aren't particularly hostile. Now, the dude in the shop, he's clearly jealous because the dude obviously likes Tifa, so he snaps at him. Johnny, the Johnny situation in chapter 3, I'm not under the impression he was actually going to kill Johnny. I think he was trying to scare him mostly. Now would he have if he had to? I don't know. Do we have any evidence that Cloud would ever actually kill somebody just because of something that inane? And I mean the only person we know for sure that he's killed is Sephiroth, you know. I see no evidence that Cloud would actually just cut some dude, some defenseless person down just because he thinks he might talk. He did exactly what he intended to do, which was to scare him to getting out of town. So I think that was yeah, right, Walter. Yeah, so you see these huge shifts in his personality in the first couple chapters. So then, Clarence and other people start equating Cloud nice must means romantic feelings. Cloud mean must mean he doesn't like you. Or whatever. Whatever they get out of that. Or more I should say, he has to be mean to you if you're a woman. Otherwise, that means he's into you. Now, and then if you see the 3 main women in his life in Remake, there's also the compare and contrast there. But we'll get a little more into that. So his interactions with Jessie, chapter 1 through chapter 4-ish, mostly annoyed by her, but she is definitely pushy. Okay. And beyond being pushy, the first thing she asks him is there something is something going on between her and him and Tifa, which then he takes a very long pause to remember them their some childhood memories and has a whole blushy moment before he actually responds. And by the time he responds, then Barrett's up in arms about something. But she's like super flirting with him. And I think one, he's not used to somebody being in his personal space like that. I mean, even from his interactions as a kid, he seems to just like be to himself. And I don't think that's a not liking people thing. I think it's an insecurity thing. He has never had a lot of self-esteem is my interpretation of Cloud. So it's a matter of not wanting to get close to people due to he doesn't know how to interact. He's scared of being rejected type thing. So he's not used to people being all up in his space. 1, 2, she is being over the top flirty with him, and he may not be thinking it consciously, but he knows he likes Tifa, and is excited to see her again and be with her, and I don't know that he's actively thinking I'm going to get in a relationship with Tifa, but he probably just doesn't want Tifa to get the wrong impression if this gets back to her. With this girl hanging all over him. He's not into her like that, so that's annoying. Then she's hanging all over him, and everybody sees her doing it. It's like, you need to get up off me. Jessie trifling. She is a very trifling friend. Okay, because she know damn well that they into each other. But yeah, so I think that's where his brashness comes with Jessie in particular. I'm sure he's had people flirt with him before, but he's never had to. I think most women who flirt with him, he treats them like he treated Eric the first time. He just, either walks away, or if they keep talking to him, he does whatever they want, so they'll get away from him. Then, well, the thing is, which part? See, all these pieces look exactly the same. It's ridiculous. And then you go from that to, like I said, him being him being not totally jerky to Aerith, and then being super nice with Tifa. So then people just start attaching those moods of Cloud to way more than it means. Let's see. I was at chapter 3. Yeah, so then and then his motivation. So to get more to the motivations, a lot of people, I don't know if it's joking or not. A lot of it is jokes, about how Cloud only cares about money. I see that a lot. Cloud, I think if Tifa had simply asked him for whatever, frankly, he'd have just done it. He wouldn't have asked for any money. That's why when she says, "Oh well, don't worry about helping me out because I'd have to pay for that too." He's like, "No, I'll do it." It wasn't about the money when it came to Tifa, but if she's about to go blow up a sector, a reactor for somebody she knows, yeah, he wants to get paid. I don't think that's out of the ordinary or out of bounds, especially if I'm risking a public hanging. So, but most of it, if you think about it, he does not get a dime from Barrett or anybody else he knows after like chapter. I don't know. I think he gets something at the end of chapter 4, and that's it. So the rest of the game, he's not making any money off of all this. Now, his motivations do change, but the point being that he could have walked away anytime. He was staying for Tifa, and he makes that clear, but he was only there for Tifa in the first place. If he really was about money, he would have been getting his money no matter what was happening. He never asked Barrett about money again. Now, he makes some jokes here and there, but money is not his motivation. Which then leaves you to wonder what his motivation is. And so for the clerics, I don't know. I mean, I suppose they think that his motivation then is his entire motivation for the rest of the game is be with her. I don't know what they think. I think it goes back to why Cloud wanted to join Soldier in the first place, which is, yes, he wanted to impress Tifa, but there's a lot of ways you can impress somebody without risking your life. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody who joins the military, and certainly everybody who joins the police force, are doing it out of good intentions or but when she heard that he was going to leave the village, her first thing was she just assumed he was going to get a job up on up top, and he was like, "No, I'm going to join." She just thought, yeah, he was just going to go get money or whatever it was, or just get out the thing. But I think he wanted to be a hero partially because he wanted to help people. And that makes sense. And the reason I say that is because, people get it's hard to tell what's Zach versus him, so to speak. What's the Mako poisoning and versus what's his actual personality. I don't think Cloud. I think the only difference really between Cloud in 7 and Cloud pre 7 is self-esteem. Well, and obviously he had the Mako poisoning, so that didn't help. I mean that did do some things, but that really just messed with his memories and his strength. I'm having like this huge glare. I'm trying to figure out how to get away from this glare. So the Mako made him stronger, but I don't think it changed his personality as much as people think it did. The only thing that really changes is his confidence, because now because he's convinced himself he believes he is as strong as he believes he has the capabilities that he wanted to have. The whole reason he didn't, even though he ultimately did save Nibelheim and he wasn't a soldier, he always had it in him to be a hero. He just didn't believe it. It took, basically his mama getting murdered and Tifa almost dying for him to gather up the strength to kill Sephiroth. But now that he thinks he's had that strength the whole time, nothing bothers him. And outside of Tifa wanting him to be nice to people, he doesn't particularly care. Like, it's not a matter of wanting to be liked. I think a lot of the times when he's saying how strong he is and all that, it's more reinforcement in his mind about his abilities, about who he is, because the person he's convincing most during all this is himself. And anything that takes him out of that just sends him into a spiral. So remembering things about Nibelheim, like when they're in chapter 7, when they're in that reactor, or chapter 6, no, chapter 7, when they're in that reactor, when he gets his headaches, when he looks at that, when he was looking at that sword in chapter 3, and he said, we've been through a lot. And then, of course, you say something like that, you start thinking you start thinking about your relationship to that item, that sword in this case. And it sends him into that headache or whatever. But mostly his actions and stuff are convincing himself of who he is. And he has to keep reinforcing it in his mind. It's not arrogance or confidence to me most of the time. Yeah, I'm definitely rambling because I have forgotten what point I was making. Yeah, motivation. So mostly his motivation, 99% of it is Tifa. And then the other part is like, he knows something's wrong in his mind, and he knows that Sephiroth is kind of the key to remembering. So, and he knows Sephiroth's dangerous. And as long as Sephiroth's out there, as he said at the end, he can't rest knowing that Sephiroth is out there. So, his immediate motivations change as the game goes on, but his overall motivation has always been to help Tifa. And yeah, okay, cool. And so just because he was, so let's just skip ahead. The saving, because I saw something crazy on Twitter yesterday. The saving Aerith thing. Okay. Chapter 14 especially is just made everybody go crazy. I'm trying to figure out what this black thing is that there are some on some of these pieces. So let's get these together. It's very hard for me to talk and do anything meaningful. I think that might be wheel. I'm just gonna see if I can get these things good. Okay, that's probably the wheel. So it's on the other side, but I can try to pull it together here. Anyway, like chapter 14 through 18. So their immediate goal becomes getting Aerith out. And Cloud seems to be the only one that's really upset about it more than anybody else in the room, including Aerith's mother. So people are taking that and thinking that that must mean, he's secretly in love with her and has to go save the love of his life or something. Who he's known 2 days. I must keep saying. They blow up reactor 1. That night he meets Aerith for the first time. Later that night he goes to see Tifa. That next morning, that's chapter 3, where he's spending the whole day helping Tifa. That night he helps Jesse, and then him and Tifa have the moment in the room again. So that's one day. Then the next morning they see the Whispers, and they immediately, and it's daytime, they immediately go to blow up reactor 5. He falls through the church and runs into Aerith again. It's still daytime when he takes her home. That means it's only been a day and a half at best since he first met her. He spends the entire day with her. Okay. That night they go to Wall Market and go save Tifa. Tifa's back in the picture at this point. So he spent half a day with her. Some of it was asleep because he snuck out while she was asleep. This is somewhere around here. I'm pretty sure that's a collar and a neck. Okay. Not quite something around here. Okay. So yeah, my point being, by the time she's snatched up again, by the time it's still nighttime when Sector 7 plate falls. So when they're talking to her mom, it is still nighttime. Remember, chapter 13, it's still the same night. It has been 2 days. He is not in love with her. I mean, this is the bottom line. Now, this is not Princess and the Frog or something. People do not fall in love that quickly with somebody they've had all of 12 hours of conversation with, and most of it doing something else. So then you have to think, well, why is he so adamant about it? Well, for one, again, this is what I'm talking about. Cloud is misunderstood. First off, not wanting to carry on conversation with people or be super friendly. He's not Zach, does not mean that Cloud doesn't care if somebody's been kidnapped by a ruthless, vicious company that will do anything, and I do mean anything, for their goals. And if you think back to chapter 9, after the whole dress scene, he says he's not going to let Aerith go into the same reason, frankly, that he went to go after Tifa ultimately once he found out who Don Cornell was. He said he wasn't going to let Aerith go in there alone to go find Tifa, which is why he did that traumatizing dance sequence I can't get out of my head. He knows what Shimmer's capable of. He knows that she's a pretty girl. So yeah, like when he says, "Who God knows what you're gonna have to do for this quote unquote audition." He knows she's a pretty girl and she has what they want. And between Hojo and the rest of them up there, God knows what they'll do to her, as they clearly showed when they started talking about breeding her in chapter 16. So he's got no interest in leaving her there. But we also have to remember that if you know OG, he just got through being experimented on by Hojo for like 5 years. So even though he doesn't remember that, like his subconscious is fighting him too. That's why I think there's this urgency about him wanting to go. I really got to start paying attention to this puzzle. There's this urgency about him wanting to go get her that her mother even doesn't have, but she probably hasn't told her mom everything that Shimra did. Her mom knows a lot, but Aerith knows. I think Aerith, because she does a lot of wanting to protect people too, to her detriment half the time. That she probably wouldn't want her to worry, blah blah blah. So even when she comes to Cloud in that dream, she's like, yeah, well, it's not that bad. And then he's like, so you want to stay? And she's like, well, no. Well, okay, so it is that bad. Yeah, so that I think that's Cloud's urgency. And Cloud is the only one. Now Barrett has a distant relationship with Shinra. Cloud and Aerith both know what it's like to be held captive for years and tortured. So they have a connection that the other characters don't have. Just as Barrett and Cloud have a connection the other characters don't have. Cloud and Tifa do. They all have their individual relationships that are unique to each other. So that's all that is to me, as far as the way he's acting when her mom, when Tifa's trying to calm him down because he wants to go after Aerith, and his mom, her mom doesn't want him to. Then chapter 14 is just, I don't even know. I just think, again, it's important to remember that Cloud has known this woman 2 days. So if you look at his interaction with her in that chapter from that aspect, it changes the mood of the conversation to me. For one, he wakes up, he thinks he's woken up, and suddenly Aerith is there, and he's like, okay, what's happening here? And then, of course, she's being loose with the truth. Oh, you tell me if it's a dream. Oh, okay, I'm asking you. See, she gonna make me cuss. I'm like, girl, if you don't tell me what's going on. And then, she's talking about it's not that bad. He's like, well, so you want to stay? She's like, no. And then she goes into this little soliloquy about how much she's loved their time together. And by now I don't want to say that Cloud has no feelings for Aerith. It's just not romantic feelings. He starts to kind of feel bad for her, I think, and that flower scene. Oh, well, first off, when he first crashes into the thing to the church. Yeah, let's go back a little before I go into that part of chapter 14. When he crashes into the church. Now, he doesn't remember who she is at this point. He's just kind of waking up. He's not annoyed per se. He's just like, oh, what? He's confused, So then he realizes he's crashed all into her flowers. He's like, oh, excuse me. But yeah, he's just remembering that he knew her. And he's about to leave, but she starts saying, yeah, I'm just here all by my lonesome. And so he's like, well, I guess I could stay for a minute. But that's him feeling bad for her. That's not romantic feelings. That's just like pity. And that is not romantic. Then it immediately goes from there to now. Again, he doesn't know who she is. He just knows that suddenly the Turks are after her. And it's the same thing as with the Hojo thing. He knows what these dudes are capable of, and whatever they want from her cannot be good. So she says, do this for me, but I don't think there's any scenario in which Cloud would have seen anybody getting attacked by the Turks, especially a woman, and just would have sat there and let them snatch this girl up and kidnap her from her home. So when I say Cloud's misunderstood again, he's not an asshole. I mean, he's not a complete jerk just because he doesn't want to hold a meaningless conversation with somebody. That again does not make it romantic. These are two different things. Then and then he's like, okay, this girl. I mean, he's having a little cute banter with her. Yeah, I'm doing some bodyguard work. But he's gonna make sure he got home. He didn't just save her just for her to get kidnapped on the way home. So he takes her home. But it's clear the entire time that he's trying, like he keeps saying, I need to get back. Now, if he was into just staying with Aerith, he would have just been like, okay, cool, we're gonna hang out at your house. When she said that we were gonna go eat, he didn't even want to eat. He wanted to go back to Sector 7. Let's see. I keep trying to make that fit. I don't know what I'm putting. Oh, this is the street. Okay. That I'm putting together. Okay. But yeah, so the rest of the time, yeah, he ends up spending the whole day with her, but it's because her mom, quote unquote, convinces them to stay the night instead of going out so that she doesn't have to walk back in the dark. Now we all know he ends up leaving. Oh, and then there's that little scene where in the flowers. Yeah, so he kind of feels bad for her there. She's over here talking to flowers and she seems kind of misunderstood. She seems a lot sadder than she actually is. She puts on this kind of show for people. And so he kind of indulges her little thing about the flowers. And again, this is just Cloud being a human being and not being totally rude. Not in love. So by the time you make chapter 14, now he knows she's a Cetra and she's wanted by Shinra. And that becomes a personal thing for him. Okay. Because now he's like, yeah, I'm not, whatever they got planned for her, I'm not letting happen. Then so when she starts rambling on about, don't fall in love with me and stuff, he says like, do I get a say in this? And people who want to take something out of that will, but he says it sarcastically. Like, who are you to tell me? I mean, it's not just that she says don't fall in love with me. She says, even if you think you have, it's not real. Okay, chick, I've known you for 2 days. Who you don't, and he already got mad at her earlier that day for presuming all this stuff about her. Oh, if you got lost, you wouldn't ask for directions and blah 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 blah. And that's really the first time Cloud genuinely gets mad. He even loses his cool in front of her mom. Okay, it's like, you do not know me. Stop making up all these assumptions about me. Yeah, so she's kind of doing that again, and he's like, okay, whatever. Like, who are you to tell me what my feelings are? You don't know anything about me, but whatever. I'm coming to get you. Okay. So yeah, people are just conflating way too many things about Cloud. I'd say 90% of what we see before he has his memories is Cloud. I guess is what I'm part of what I'm arguing here. Like I said, the only thing that really makes a difference is the confidence level. Because he doesn't have all that internal dialogue happening in the back of his mind that he's not good enough. He thinks he's already proved himself. And I just went into I just totally changed the subject. But let's see if there's more here. But yeah. I don't know that I have anything coherent to say other than that. I just know that people need to stop taking need to stop having this binary view of Cloud that nice equals and love, not nice equals not, or whatever. I honestly don't know. For the people who actually believe this is a real romance happening between the two of them, I just need one of them to explain it to me because I'm not seeing it. I'm absolutely not seeing it. Whereas even in that same thing, if you look at the only time Cloud actually touches anybody else, let's see, when Jessie gets hurt, there's a couple times Jessie gets hurt. Okay, she's hurt, so he touches her. He picks her up, or whatever it is. He helps her get up. Yeah, not romantic. When Aerith almost falls off that roof, as I said in one of my videos, saving somebody from spinal injury is not romance. It's just it's just being nice. Okay. And then but when you look at that versus the amount of times he is putting his hands on Tifa, yeah, he's technically saving her a lot of those times, quote unquote. But like when that box fell or whatever, when that crate fell in chapter 13 and he pulled her out of the way, he does the same thing with Aerith in chapter 11, right? Aerith is about to get crushed by the same thing. One of those, I think one of those things called that the trains are carrying, but you know what I'm talking about. It almost falls on her and he grabs her and moves out the way. The difference is he immediately gets up after she's in safety. He immediately gets up and walks away. With Tifa, if you look at chapter 5 and chapter 13 and some other places, in chapter 13, he grabs her, pulls out the way, then he holds on to her for a good 15 seconds after she's already out of danger. I mean, I'm talking close, okay? Hands all over her. Chapter 5, they do the train roll. And it's not even the train roll, because I mean, yeah, they have to jump off the train. It's not necessarily romantic. But for one, if that was Barrett, you think he would have grabbed on the Barrett like that and rolled all on the ground with him? I don't think so. Okay, he'd have. What? In fact, they show what Cloud would have done if it was Barrett. If you look at chapter 17 near the end, Aerith almost kills them by pushing that door over on them. He just shoves Barrett out the way and then he moves to the other direction. So they show what he'll do if it's Barrett. So then and it sure wasn't nothing romantic about that encounter. Then not only does he throw her off the train with him, he stops them and uses his hand to stop their rolling, but then puts his hands back on her, rubbing all up on her back and saying from 2 inches from her mouth, "Are you okay?" And they continue to stare at each other until them robo things show up. Now, you look at that versus what he did in chapter 8 when he caught Aerith, or chapter 11. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, chapter 11 when he basically pushed her out of the way, grabbed her and threw her out of the way from getting crushed. He just jumps up and keeps it moving. It's completely different. And there are many instances where he's putting his hands on Tifa. Now, he uses saving her as an excuse, but the amount of time, chapter 12, when she's running up those stairs and he catches her, he doesn't just catch her, he then puts his hand around her waist and it is there for a while. And then he puts his hands, if you notice, after he gets through getting mad at her, when it goes back into gameplay, his hand is back around her waist again. Okay, the interaction is totally different. The hug with Aerith, she came out and grabbed him, and yeah, people will take him reaching out for Aerith or something. But if I'm in a dream and a ghost reaches out and touches my face, essentially, I'm gonna try to see if I can touch it. I don't think that's him, some longing or versus Tifa's resolution, where he thinks about it for a long time. After she starts crying, he chooses to hug her, and he hugs her so tight that he nearly kills this girl. Yeah, Cloudy Love. He nearly kills this girl. Yeah, she's like, Cloud, okay, seriously. I can't breathe at this point. I can't even pay attention to this puzzle. I might do one of these later when I'm closer to being done. Y'all can't have me ranting about Cloud and expect me to pay attention. Um, but I'm normally much faster at these puzzles, but man, it is so hard. Like I'm gonna have to get like a strobe light in here, so I'm gonna have to get a magnifying glass to see these different pieces. But yeah, bottom line is Cloud is not an asshole, and Cloud is not in love with Jesse nor Aerith just because he is not a total jerk all the time to them. Now he's a jerk. He's a bit jerky some of the time, but not all of the time. And bottom line, as far as the motivation, his ultimate motivation is absolutely Tifa. There's a thousand things he could have been doing. And even with his thing with Sephiroth, he didn't have to go save the world, save Earth, and do all this other stuff just to find out what, just to get his memories back. He could have done that anytime, doing anything. And if he didn't care about people, what does he care about saving the planet for? He knows what he's doing. If he stops Shinra, that's what he's doing. It's not about personal benefit. He don't even half remember what Shinra did to him. He just knows that he doesn't like them. But Cloud doesn't seem like the person. Cloud doesn't like a lot of things. He doesn't chart his entire existence around something. He only, just because he doesn't like them. And in fact, if you look at his look at how he treats the guards and stuff, the ones that aren't, like in chapter 3, that that woman near the end in one of the what am I trying to say? One of the missions, she's cussing out the guards, and he's like, dude, they're just doing their job. And so she gets mad at him because he takes up for the guards. Cloud is pretty sympathetic to them just doing their jobs. You know what I mean? So and then like the people, and then he says multiple times, like in chapter 16, he says when Baird's going on about his about Shinra and all their lies, he's like, but Mako has made people's lives better. He's actually defending the company sometimes and defending the people that work at the company a lot of times. So for somebody who's supposedly solely motivated by his hatred for Shinra, and that's the reason he's there as opposed to Tifa, it doesn't make any sense. His actions don't line up with that line of thinking. Even in chapter 3, I mean, Tifa speaks more disparagingly. When you listen to Tifa's tone when she's talking about Shinra, that's when she sounds the angriest. That's when she gets the angriest. It's not the same, it's not as boisterous as Barrett. So, it's like a quiet, brooding anger that Tifa has when she thinks about Shinra. Because unlike Cloud, she remembers everything that happened to her. Now, ultimately, she doesn't think possibly killing people is necessarily the answer, but she still goes along with it, But anyway, so yeah, hatred for Shinra is not his motivating factor. He didn't even half remember Sephiroth, nor does he even know where to find them, so that's not it. The purpose that he finds when he's wandering and he runs into Tifa, that becomes his motivating factor. Now, he doesn't exactly say that he's going to stick around until when he remembers the promise, but I don't think Cloud was leaving. Outside of him saying, I might stick around, save up some money, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's then gotten an apartment. He's making all these connections with people. What's the point of making all these merc connections with people in chapters? Oh, I'm sorry, not chapter 7, in sector 7, if he doesn't intend to stick around? You have to pay less attention to Cloud's literal words coming out of his mouth and what he's actually doing. And if you look at most of his actions outside of when Aerith gets kidnapped, which, by the way, of course, there's also guilt there because and Cloud has a big problem with feeling guilty about stuff. Because it was them who got her roped into it. He already felt bad. Her mom told him to leave her alone, and he let her come along anyway. And now she's kidnapped by Shinra. So yeah, there's guilt there too, and he wants to rectify that situation. But yeah, 90% of his actions can be directly linked to Tifa. But anyway, I've done enough rambling. I'm actually trying to make some progress on this picture. On this, I might actually get done with it today if I pay attention. But I appreciate you stopping by, Walter. Woo! Gosh, it's been an hour. Whew. I sure can ramble. I don't know that I actually said anything of substance here, but just my stream of consciousness about Cloud. Guess the moral of the story is, you know, he's not a jerk. Most of what you see out of Cloud is Cloud. The only reason he talks more these days is because it's just that self-conscious factor and that self-esteem factor is not nearly as prevalent as it was before he lost his memories and before he went out through all that trauma. So it's not Cloud being Zack. Cloud is being Cloud. That's my point. And the other point being that being nice to somebody does not mean he's in love with them. Being nice to Aerith's a nice person. Him being nice to her or not being trash to her does not mean he's in love with her. If you look at all his actions, 90% of them are directly related to Tifa. You know, follow just Occam's razor. You know, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, I will holler at y'all later. I appreciate y'all who stopped by. Bye-bye.